On this episode, I'm going to show you how to make the best lasagna ever. I love the classic lasagna. However, making that ragu can take hours. So I want to show you how to make an easy meat sauce that captures all of the flavor, and it's done within a short amount of time. I've taken some breadcrumbs and I added some milk to it. This is called a panade. Now the panade, what that's going to do, that's going to capture any of the excess fats, but also what it's going to do is help the meat stay nice and juicy. Sometimes when we make a ragu, the meat has a tendency to dry out, and the panade will help with that. I've got some beef, and we're going to add a pound of beef to the bowl, and then we're going to add half a pound of Italian sausage, and the Italian sausage is going to make this nice and juicy. Now that we've got these together, we're going to add some freshly milled pepper, and feel free to add some salt. You can try to mix this using a spatula. However, I found the best way to do this is just to get your hands in and mix it with your hands. You could use some rubber gloves if you wanted to, but we just want to make sure everything's nicely mixed together. Now that we can see it's evenly mixed, I'm going to wash my hands and then we'll start to cook this meat mixture. We're going to add some olive oil to the pot, a couple of tablespoons. And what we're going to do now is take a diced onion, and we're just looking to get a bit of colour on this onion. At this stage now, we're going to add the chopped garlic. We don't want to add that too early because we don't want it to burn, because garlic has a tendency to get bitter when it burns. Just adding the garlic and just letting that cook for a minute. And now we're going to add the meat. So we've got the Italian sausage, the beef, and the panade. And what we want to do is just break up the meat. We're not really looking to get a deep brown color on it. We just want to cook it until we see no more pink. And this takes about 5 minutes to do. And I'm just chopping it with the back of a spoon. And we can see that the meat sauce now is no longer pink. So at this stage now, what I want to do is add the marinara sauce. And you can use your favorite brand of marinara sauce, or you can make it yourself. We're just stirring that in. And what we want to do is just using the wooden spoon, scrape off any browning on the bottom of the pan. At this stage now, we're going to take a lid, place it on top of the pot, and let it cook for about 10 minutes. After about 10 minutes, we're going to remove the lid, and you can see we've got this lovely ragu. And it's not too watery. If yours has got a lot of water in there, just let it cook for a few more minutes with the lid off to remove that excess moisture. And then as we look inside, we can see it's nice and creamy. I'm going to remove this and let it just cool down slightly. Whilst that's cooling, let's make the cheese sauce. Whenever you have lasagna, you always have that white layer of sauce. That's called a bechamel sauce. That can take a while to cook. We'd have to make a roux and then add milk to it and cook that out. Well, today we're going to make a different white sauce. You may have had lasagna with ricotta on it, but I find ricotta has a tendency to feel gritty to the tongue. So what we're going to do is actually use cottage cheese. Cottage cheese has a larger curd. Because it's got a larger curd, it melts better. So I'm adding some cottage cheese to the bowl. The next thing I'm going to add is 1 cup of heavy cream. That's going to make this really silky and delicious. We're going to add 2 cups of Parmesan cheese, and then we're going to add some garlic because we want that layer to have a good garlic taste to it. So we're going to take some minced garlic, and then we're going to add cornstarch. And you may be thinking, well, why wouldn't you add some egg yolks or egg to this? I've found under the high heat that they'll have a tendency to scramble. So what we want to do is just add some cornstarch, and that's going to be a thickening agent for it. We're going to season this with some pepper. And feel free if you want to add some salt at home. As always, I like to add salt at the dinner table. So what we want to do is just whisk this together. And this is going to be our cheese sauce. That cornstarch will thicken it. As it starts to melt in the oven, the cornstarch will bring it together nicely. And now we have a white sauce that's really easy to make. Up to now, we've made our meat ragu, we've made our white sauce, we've also blanched our pasta. We took the sheets of pasta and we cooked it in some salted water until they were al dente. We brought them out and then we just cooled them under some ice water, dried them and placed some oil on top to stop them from sticking together. Now that we have everything ready, we can start to assemble these. I'm using a 13 by 9 dish. I'm just going to place 3 of the noodles on the bottom. I've actually sprayed some oil on the dish as well. We've got this layer of noodles. The next thing we want to do is add about 1.5 cups of that sauce. So just adding the sauce to the layer of noodles, about 1.5 cups is more than enough. And we're just going to spread that out. And remember, with lasagna, we just want to build these layers. They don't have to be too thick. We just want these nice layers, and we're looking for about 4 layers with this lasagna, just spreading that meat out. And now we're going to add some of that cheese sauce. I'm going to take about 1/2 cup, and with this one we're just going to do random dollops. And the reason why we do random dollops is it's going to melt, so we don't need a layer of it, because as it cooks the cheese is going to melt and it's going to spread nicely. And then when it comes to mozzarella, you can use freshly grated mozzarella, but today they had a sale on some buffalo mozzarella, so I'm going to be using some of this. If you are going to use grated mozzarella, buy it in the block. Don't purchase it pre-grated, because the pre-grated is coated with flour and it won't melt as well. Feel free to add some fresh basil to the recipe. You could add some pesto to it. And now we're going to build another layer, and we're going to do exactly the same thing with each layer. We're going to add the ragu sauce, we're going to add the cheese sauce, and just keep building and building till we've got a nice lasagna, and then I'll show you how to do the cheese topping. We used up all the meat sauce on the 3rd layer. For the 4th layer, we just want the cheese sauce. So whatever's remaining in the bowl, we're going to add that to the top of the lasagna, and this is going to melt and get a beautiful color to it. And we're going to spread this out, just spreading the mixture out. And remember, it's going to melt. Once it starts melting, it will spread out even more. So now that we've got this spread out, we're going to use the rest of the mozzarella cheese. Remember, you could use grated mozzarella cheese, or buy it in the block and grate it, or you could use the buffalo mozzarella cheese, which is what we're doing now. And we have that parmesan cheese for the top. Just adding some of that parmesan cheese. There you have it. I've taken some foil and I put some vegetable spray on it to stop it from sticking, and I want to just cover the actual lasagna, because the goal here is to heat everything up and to get it nice and warm and melt all that cheese. But by covering it, we're going to help it from burning the cheese. Whenever we're making a lasagna, it's always best to put it on a rimmed baking sheet. I'm going to pop it in the oven. When it comes out, you can see that the top is all golden. That cheese is blistered and it's got this lovely color to it, just like a pizza has, and you know it's going to taste so good. We're going to have to let this rest for about 30 minutes before we can slice into it and serve it. As you look at the slice of lasagna, you'll see those layers of meat and the melted cheese. It's absolutely delicious. I can't wait for you to make this in your kitchen.